If the Islamic regime of Iran fell, if they fell, is that the blow to radical Islam that maybe could do some irreparable damage to the Muslim Brotherhood plans?
That will be a huge blow to the radical Islamists in the Middle East, not the Muslim Brotherhood plan. Let's put that aside. When the Iran regime falls, and it will fall, it's a matter of days now. So when they fall and the Iranian people rise up, they are rebelling against Islam itself, not just the regime.
What happens when the Iranian regime falls? Let's listen to Brigitte Gabriel. This is a fire of a woman who tells it the way it is. Growing up in Lebanon, she knows what we're dealing with, and she knows the benefits after the fall of the current radical Islamist regime.
The end result is transforming America. In their mind, they want the whole world to adhere to Islamic ideology. And the perfect example is in Lebanon, where I grew up, where I was born and grew up until the age of 20. The radical left in Lebanon, because remember, Lebanon is a republic exactly like the United States of America. That's what most people don't realize. When you think of the Middle East, you've got the Islamic countries either ruled by a dictator or a one-man regime or a one royal family. You understand? They're tribes with flags. That's what I call them in my book. But they are a dictatorship. People think Israel is the only democratic country in the Middle East. Lebanon is a republic, exactly like the United States. So what the left
Well, was, right? Not
was
is, was. Yeah.
well, actually, it still is in a way because we still have to have a Maronite Christian. The Secretary of State has to be a Sunni Muslim. We divided the power so everybody can be equal and everybody can be, we're tolerant and we're equal and we're diverse and all of that nonsense that when it's put in the wrong hands, it can destroy a society. So the radical progressive left in Lebanon, when the Islamists started saying, oh, we're going to transform the country, we hate you all, they would say, no, 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 they don't mean it. We need to stand with them. We're tolerant society. We shouldn't forget that. And they actually fought for their rights to have the rights that they have. And once the Islamists won and they became the majority, they killed the lefties just as much as they killed the rest of us because they looked at them, oh, you're Christian idiots, yeah, we're done with you now. We have no use for you. You already served your purpose. So they massacred the lefty Christians as much as they massacred the conservative Christians in Lebanon. In America, the same thing is going to happen. It's like Iran. When the Khomeini came to power in 1979, the first thing he did is kill all the progressives, is kill all the leftists, is kill all the people who said, we want to make sure we have equality in the country. That's what Carter thought, by getting rid of the Shah and bringing Khomeini, they're going to have equality. Khomeini killed everybody. In America, once the Islamists have their way, they will have no use for the queers for Palestine, the LGBTQ plus, whatever. They have no tolerance for these people because they despise these people. So they are going to turn against the human rights that we believe in, that we respect. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. I don't care what God you pray for. I don't care whether you're religious or atheist. I don't care if you believe in Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, whatever temple you go to, whatever mosque, as long as you are a law abiding citizen in the United States, you love America as much as I do, as we do. We in America love all people, but they don't see it that way. And Iran is the perfect example of what happens when Islamists become the majority. Lebanon, Gaza, Syria, Egypt. Remember when in Egypt, the winter spring, the Arab Spring, when the Muslim Brotherhood took over? Every place when the Islamists, the radical who adhere to the religion of Islam and the tenets of Islam, take over, it spells disaster to any country or any community where they take over.
So I should know we're taping this on Tuesday. This is going to be our Friday show. And it sounds like it could happen at any moment right now. There could be a breakout of an American strike or some version of some sort of war happening in Iran. If the Islamic regime of Iran fell, which has murdered now, it sounds like around 36,000 of their own people in a month. I mean, it's absolutely insane, of their own people. If they fell, is that the blow to radical Islam that maybe could do some irreparable damage to the Muslim Brotherhood plans because their proxies would all be kind of crumbling, which in some sense they are already?
That will be a huge blow to the radical Islamists in the Middle East, not the Muslim Brotherhood plan. Let's put that aside. When the Iran regime falls, and it will fall, it's not a matter of weeks, it's a matter of days now. So when they fall and the Iranian people rise up, remember, they are burning their own mosques. They burned over, I think, almost 350 mosques. So they are rebelling against Islam itself, not just the regime. When that falls, the fall of the regime of Iran will reverberate throughout the world. In the Middle East, I believe the Iranians will sign a peace treaty with Israel. The people of Iran will sign a peace treaty with Israel. Hezbollah will be suffocated. The money tunnel that was funneling money to the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah. And remember, Hezbollah committed terrorist attacks on 4 continents across the globe, not just Lebanon. They were supporting Islamic Jihad. They were supporting Hamas. All that money flow is gonna stop and die, and also it will destroy them psychologically. 50% of winning the battle is psychological. That will destroy them psychologically, and then I believe Lebanon will come to the peace accord, will join the peace accord. Syria will join the peace accord, the Abraham Accord. It will transform the Middle East, but not just the Middle East. It will enable us to take our military power and divert and start focusing on protecting Taiwan, other interests in other parts of the world. Because remember, the only reason we have a base in Qatar is basically because of Iran. That's why we have a base in Qatar. Imagine the resources that will be freed after that. That is very different than the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is a Sunni movement. Iranians are Shia movement. There's not many Iranians in the world. The Sunnis, Indonesia, the biggest country in the world, is a Sunni country. 280 million Muslims all adhere to Sunni Islam. So the Muslim Brotherhood and their plan, the Muslim Brotherhood will always have sympathizers all over the globe. And that's why we need to start going after them globally, designating them as a terrorist organization, like what some Arabic countries did, like Saudi Arabia, like big countries that designated them as a terrorist organization because they don't want them there. They don't want to have anything to do with them. They are banned in those countries.
So you kind of alluded to this earlier, but what do you make of what's going on with Qatar? Because we know they are pumping literally billions of dollars into our colleges here, and then our colleges become bastions of leftism and completely the same stuff that you're arguing the Muslim Brotherhood wants to happen. So Qatar has a piece of that. The country itself is basically a slave state. I mean, they have more, in essence, foreign slaves that are trapped there building all of their infrastructure, while it's just an oil-rich, as everyone says, it's kind of just a gas station in the middle of the Middle East. Yet they seem to have huge influence, and people talk about them way more now than maybe 3 years ago. What's going on there?
Qatar is the new shiny ball. They have no more influence and they have not pumped any more money than Saudi Arabia over the years. I detail in my book in 2006, Because They Hate, my first book, all the money that have poured into American colleges, from Harvard to Georgetown to Columbia to Cornell to Duke. I go down the list of all the money that was funneled from Saudi Arabia, setting up Middle East Study Department and political science departments, and appointing Arab professors who are anti-Israel, anti-America, to teach that Israel is evil, America is the great Satan, and they have done this to the tune of millions. Al-Haramain Foundation out of Saudi Arabia have sent more students paid for by the Saudis from the Middle East into America and all our universities through the 90s, 2000s, the 2010 and beyond. Qatar today is only the new shiny ball du jour that the Jewish community is starting to shine the light on, and that's only after the Hamas war. You didn't hear anything about Qatar before October 7th, 2024. So now this is the new shiny ball. Qatar is funneling money into America like Saudi Arabia has been funneling money into America, like Kuwait, like any of these other nations that have money, most notably Saudi Arabia. So yes, they are educating about, they are very pro-Islamist, they are very pro-Palestinian, and they are brainwashing the students. But this is nothing new. This has been happening for years, and we need to open our eyes and realize that yes, we can do business deals with the Middle East, any country in the Middle East, but you can never turn your back on any country in the Middle East with the exception of the State of Israel. If we go into war and we have to rely on people to turn our back to in the trenches. Israel is the only country we can trust because Israel is the only nation where we share the same values, the Judeo Christian values, the same ethics, which were the foundation of Western civilization. Now, people may not agree with Israel, may not like Israel. Fine, that's perfect. We're just talking about America's interest. If I'm in a trench and I have to depend on one entity, one ally to defend me, I'm not turning my back on any of the Muslim countries, but I can turn my back to Israel.
Wow, wow, wow. Mrs. Brigitte, you're always on fire and we love it. We really appreciate your perspective. And, you know, you yourself, you grew up around this. So you have a true keen understanding. Your formative years growing up in Lebanon, you know what it was like. And here we are. We are at a hopefully a watershed moment in history where we can see a world change order. Can we just imagine what it would be like? Just for a moment, think about what it would be like if and when Iran is free once again. Prior to 1979, the Iranian government were allies with Israel and the West. There was a daily flight from Tehran to Tel Aviv. The Iranian professionals and the Israeli professionals conferred with each other. The brain power of both countries were able to accomplish so much. This isn't something just before 1979. This has been going on for thousands of years. Even 2,000 years ago, Cyrus the Great, he freed the Jewish people from slavery and paved the way for them to go back to Israel to rebuild the temple. After the Babylonians sent them away into exile. And yes, the Jewish people went back to Israel. And Cyrus the Great even financed part of the rebuilding of the temple. That's how close the Jewish-Iranian alliance was thousands of years ago. And that has gone on for centuries. So much so that there was a lot of Hebrew words that have adopted from Persian. So the Persian and Jewish alliances has been going on for thousands of years. There's a famous book of Esther, part of the Torah, part of the Bible, the book of Esther, the story of Queen Esther, the whole story of Purim that happened in Persia. So to think for a moment of what the ripple effect it would have on the world should the ideology, these Islamist radical ideology be neutralized in Iran, how it would affect the Middle East and the rest of the world. So let's just look at the 90 million Iranians that are there. They are living in one big concentration camp. We can even imagine or fathom what it's like to live under such an ideology. Look what just happened in the last 3 weeks. Its own government massacred up to 30,000 innocent individuals. Think of the numbers, 30,000. Even the number 1,000 is so many, even the number 100. When you're dealing with a life, even one life is so valuable. In Judaism, there's a saying, you save one person, you're saving the whole world. Every person is a world. We value life for every human being, every person. We know that if, God forbid, there's a tragedy, someone dies of an illness or an accident or some tragedy, even one person is such a loss. Multiply that by 2 people, by 3 people, by a dozen people, 50 people, 100 people, get into the thousands. It's mind-boggling. 30,000 human beings just are dead now because of a tyranny of a regime who kills its own people. And yet the world said nothing about it. We don't see any protests in the streets of France or in England or Manchester or the streets of Sydney, Australia. We see no protests on the campuses. We see no encampments. Where did that all go? Are the Iranians less value than the Palestinians in Gaza? Why is this such double standard? And this is where we are at the watershed moment of history. If and when this government gets toppled, and hopefully that happens from within, and hopefully the government decides just to pack the bags and leave peacefully and allow a democracy to be restored in Iran the way it was for thousands of years. As we heard from the Crown Prince Pahlavi, the son of the Shah, the former leader prior to the revolution, one of his comments was, if and when there is a new democracy, a democratic government that was brought in, voted in with a true democracy in Iran, and if he is chosen to be the current leader, as his father was, one of the very first things he will do is renew the diplomatic relations with Israel and the West. Just imagine that. Imagine when Iran will no longer be a state sponsoring terrorism. Imagine if the Houthis get defunded, Hamas gets defunded, Hezbollah gets defunded. Imagine all the terrorism throughout the world gets defunded. Iran is no longer in the terrorist business. They have shut down, they're closed, they're gone. Imagine what's going to happen in the Middle East. Imagine the peace ripple effect that it will have, not only on Israel, but even its own Arab neighbors. It's going to be a colossal shifting of the plates of history if Iran can be neutralized, if the 90 million Iranians can be freed. During this summer, there was a water drought, and it probably still is. And the Iranian government was telling its citizens about its drought. Our Prime Minister, Mr. Bibi Netanyahu, so courageously sent a message. And it's a beautiful message. This was during the war. And he began saying, to my fellow Iranian citizens, we love you. We know what you're going through, and we feel you. And it's not going to be much longer that you're going to be subjected to this tyranny. Very soon you'll become free people. We understand that you're going through a drought. We here in Israel have the technology and the knowledge to be able to help you with water recycling. We have the engineers who are ready to be dispatched to every single one of your cities to assist you in your water drought. We have desaltation plants that could turn seawater into drinking water. We are ready and able to come and help you with these assistance when we can. And that was a message that Israel is sending to its arch enemy. Iran, till today, in the parliament, what is the mantra? Death to America, death to Israel. And they mean it. That's why it was so important to neutralize the nuclear program, because this death cult, with no compulsion, would try to annihilate Israel and anyone else. As Brigitte Gabriel mentioned, their goal is world dominion. Their goal is to rule the whole world with this radical Islamic ideology. And this is the war that we are facing in our days. One could have never imagined in the 21st century. We should have progressed so much further than being stuck in the 7th century of religious wars. Religion cannot and is not about war, about death. The word religion gives you the aura that you're connected to a God. There's only one God in heaven, the God that created, the omnipotent, the omnipresent. God created this world so we can coexist with each other. There's no one religion that is right and the other one is wrong. every religion is right, as long as the religion is about the living, about life, about promoting life and sustaining life and doing whatever we can for the living in peace. That's what religion is about. Religion means you become godly. Religion means you become an ambassador of God, that God is telling you, help my people. You're there to be compassionate. You're there to be loving, caring, supporting, and loving life more than anything else. That is God. That is religion. Other than that, you cannot call it a religion. You're just a death cult of monstrous abilities to terrorize the world. And you have no place in our society. Either you join our society and live as free people and live and let live. Otherwise, we're not going to let you pull us back to the 7th century. We are already in the 21st century. We have moved forward. It's time for you to move forward. Let's pray, and we hope that that happens very soon. Thank you, Brigitte, Gabriel. Thank you for the Reuben Report. We really appreciate your fire. Keep on going stronger and stronger. And let's pray, and we hope that we can wake up to a new day where the 90 million of Iranians are free and there's peace in the Middle East and throughout the world. God bless you. God loves you.